Y'all ready?
You're the interviewer?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I am.
What are you doing?
I don't want to be part of
Moral
it.
support?
No,
I'm kind of interviewing you both. I'm mostly interviewing you, but I'm going to, like, there are parts where it's like the relationship part where I'm going to interview you both. But I am Barbara Walters, and this is 2020. Okay. Welcome, everyone, back to a very special episode of See You on the Other Side. I have got Jesus here with us and Leah.
Hello.
Just kidding. It's just Leah's husband, Jason.
He's not Jesus, guys.
But he kind of looks like Jesus. So, welcome, Jason.
Hi. It's good to be here in my own basement.
He's never been here before.
Yeah. No, this is new. You're in the hot seat today.
I am.
So, we obviously have discussed you a lot in our episodes, but I feel like...
But not a lot.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, so I don't...
Like, we don't talk about you all the time.
No, but Leah shares her story, and
Right.
you are a heavy part of her story.
Right, which I've given her permission to do.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, which I think it's greatly appreciated because our listeners love kind of the rawness that we share. But I really wanted to hear about your story from your words today.
So what do you want?
into
You want
that.
to talk about
I want to talk about a lot of things.
sobriety, alcoholism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff.
Well,
So
a lot of people reach out and they relate to that part of it. Like
Sure.
having struggles, getting sober, and they're curious about like the different modalities. We've brought up the Bill Wilson thing a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of all encompassing.
and I think that there is so much more information that we're learning about alcohol and the dangers of alcohol that I think people are waking up
Right.
more.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I want to backtrack and go into when you started drinking and like how that journey started.
I think, so some of my friends had started drinking in high school. They would we would go to band camp and people would like sneak some beers. My dad, have you gone into my dad on here very much?
No.
Okay. So my dad was an alcoholic. My parents split. I don't know how old I was at the time. I mean, probably 7 to 10. But,
Do you remember that?
I don't remember the divorce very well. And shortly after that, my blood father stopped coming around. And all I really knew was that he was an alcoholic. I didn't really know what that meant. It was scary for me. So even in high school, I didn't really drink. So either at that, toward the end of my senior year or, soon after I started college was probably when I started to drink. And it was kind of like, after that first drink, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. This is what I'm going to do. I don't know. There was something, I wasn't scared anymore. Right. It didn't really connect with me like, hey, maybe my dad loved it this much too. It's like, to me, I viewed him as like a loser. But I was like, well, I'm not a loser. So
Yeah, I'm in college. I'm like smart.
right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. The first year, I was kind of nerdy in high school. First year of college, I was in speed school for engineering. So I wasn't drinking a ton at the time. But then I think second year is where I joined a fraternity. And then that's when it just got a little crazy. I mean, just the binge drinking all the time, working in a restaurant, obviously, restaurants are filled with degenerates. So I was drinking after the shift, drinking on weekends, weeknights, it got to the point where in summers, we would just drink almost every single night. Like it was crazy. But most of my life back then was focused on partying. School was secondary. Everything was secondary pretty much. So.
Yeah. Now, at what point did you meet Leah?
How old was I?
I think you were 27.
27, 28. So, yeah, I mean, I was...
So you were a little bit out of college.
Yeah, out of college, but early in my career.
But we met because I was bartending.
Right.
How old were you, Leah?
21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she was in Lexington, and I had friends also in Lexington. And it was nice to go down there because there would be like girls who didn't know us. And so we would go down there. She was
why was that good?
Because you could develop a bad reputation here, and so it's easier to just go to Lexington. And,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and
Good to know.
But the night I met her, you weren't bartending. It was your birthday.
Yeah.
And she was blacked out drunk. And I guess I signed a little book that you had.
A shot book.
Yeah, whatever that was. People she did shots with. And then I reached out to you on Facebook after that.
No, it was MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace, whatever.
Damn.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Really telling people the age you guys are.
Right, but again, like even when we met, it was still the whole party scene, right?
Yeah, and you both were in it.
Yeah, I was still partying hard even after college. It wasn't every night anymore, but it wasn't unusual that it would be, a couple nights a week, several nights a week, and going very hard when I did drink. Because bars in Louisville are open all night, so we would pre-drink until 11 or 12,
Yeah.
and then stay out till 4, and then depending, what if any drugs were involved, potentially just be up all night, and that was the normal way.
Did you start experimenting with drugs back then?
No, I started, everybody was doing drugs in college, different types of drugs. I mean, some pills were popular, like some people like painkillers, not like Oxycontins, but like Klonopins, Vicodins, lower end of stuff. I probably did cocaine for the first time at 21. I think. Wow. And then when I did that, I was like, yeah, this is it for me. Like, I love this. This is fucking amazing. And, it just, not everybody was doing blow, but a lot of people were. A lot of people were doing pills. Everybody drank. A lot of people smoked weed, but it was just pretty much anything of it. Ecstasy was very big, early 2000s, late 90s. Yeah. You name it. It was just a very, like, the culture at the time. It's funny, even if you go back and HBO has like the Woodstock 99 special, and it was just like a wild, raging culture, and that was like normal for people to do. And I don't know, some people escaped okay, some people didn't, but it didn't seem abnormal at the time to be partying that hard.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And Leah has mentioned too, you being on the spectrum,
right?
So. Was that something, did you even correlate, like, maybe I struggle in moments when I'm sober with people, but then when I take these substances, I'm like the life of the party?
I didn't correlate that at the time. Like, I didn't even know I was on the spectrum at the time. That wasn't a thing.
That's true.
Right, when I was younger. Unless you were, like, severely autistic to the point you can't talk. But, sure, of course, like, I was scared to talk to women. And I could drink enough that I would have, it wasn't really confidence. I mean, it was just being intoxicated enough that you didn't care anymore. Yeah. But it didn't matter to me. Like, I didn't really have a lot of friends before. It gave me a way to have friends, meet new people. I did meet a lot of people. I did meet women. So yeah, that part of it was very attractive to me. Was there, I feel like, we argue about this, but was there underlying psychological issues I was trying to mask? Like, maybe, but it didn't feel like it at the time. Like,
sure.
I just enjoyed the fun aspect.
Sure.
Of it, right?
But when I was that age,
I don't think any of us realized.
Yeah. I mean, I had so much shit that I didn't even know how much shit I had until I started kind of later adult.
But we were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it was like every night, it's like, what are we doing tonight? Like, parties at people's houses. And like, it was fun, but, eventually it's not as fun, especially when you get into your like 30s and 40s. Then you start to realize like maybe I'm self-medicating a little bit. But back then, I mean, I don't know. It's just what we did, and we thought it was a good time. In retrospect, would I change anything? I mean, yeah, I would. It's hard to look back and say I wouldn't drink at all, but certainly I would have done better in school. Hindsight is 20/20, but it seemed fun at the time.
Well, and you learn as you go.
Right.
And a lot of times you have to learn through mistakes.
Right.
So you and Leah get together. And how long were you guys together before you guys got pregnant with
What was it,
Gabe?
a year?
A year.
Yeah.
I'm like 90% sure we got pregnant on our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah. That was an
Well,
infamous
that's
day.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point did, because even the little bit we've talked, Leah, because
Well, do you know the story? Have you told the story on here?
Of what?
Over the Thunder over Louisville when you found out you were pregnant?
Oh, no.
Okay, no, I want to hear this.
Okay, so again, we were all partying. Thunder over Louisville. It was Thunder over Louisville weekend. It was a good weekend to party. Like we used to, we would just tailgate at a parking lot downtown. And she had to work that night. And
At a bar?
Yeah, at a bar. She worked at 4th Street Live. She was still bartending. She was just being pissy all day. And she I went to get some McDonald's. I'm like, you want some McDonald's? She's like, no, I'm not hungry. I come back with no food. She's like, why didn't you get me anything? I'm like, you didn't fucking ask for anything. She starts just the whole day very irritable. She starts pulling Corona bottles out of the cooler and just smashing them on the ground. And everybody's just like, what the hell are you doing? Eventually she had to go to work and started to walk her to work. She changed her mind. She's like, I'm not going to go to work. And
I was crazy.
it was like crazy. And
Yeah,
so,
you sound like it.
and I was like, we're leaving. And I was driving her home. I don't know why I thought of this, but I was like, we're going to get a pregnancy test. And I was like, if you're not pregnant, I don't ever want to see you again. I want your keys. I was like, we are done. Don't ever speak to me again.
Oh, yeah, because we live together. So
Yeah.
he was like, I want my keys back.
Yeah. I'm like, we're done. Like, this is insane. Like, you're acting fucking crazy.
And then my response was like, I'm not pregnant. You're just a fucking asshole.
Right. So,
Because I hadn't even missed a period.
yeah. So we got a pregnancy test on the way back home. And the next thing I know, I opened the door and she's on the floor crying. And that's how we found out she was pregnant. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was wild.
I was not.
Whoa,
I was
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I was
Didn't-
like literally busting Corona bottles.
just-
Like, you're a fucking asshole. You should have.
So was he being an asshole?
No, I was extremely hormonal and didn't understand why. I think I was like, there was a lot of circumstances that were probably contributing to that. Like, we had been together a year and I'm listening to one of his roommates who just met a girl 3 weeks ago talking about how in love he was and how he was going to marry her. And I was like, we've been together a year and he doesn't say that shit to me. It was a lot. And then I was like, I shouldn't have to tell you what I want from McDonald's. You should know what I want from McDonald's.
Okay, Leah.
There was a lot of, I was extremely hormonal, and even I wasn't really quite aware of the way that it was affecting me.
Well, and you're somebody who has a lot of big feelings, and you probably...
Oh, they were big feelings.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck this shit. I'm out.
Which...
So the next year, though, what was interesting is I continued to bartend, and, they would give me, like, earlier shifts, so it wasn't, like, high-end, high-speed bartending late at night where all the drunks were. But that was really hard because he didn't stop drinking
while you were
and
pregnant.
partying, and I was pregnant, and the hormones, like, went fucking wild.
And that's kind of what I wanted to get into is where, she has talked a lot about, your guys' struggles and when that started and was it pre-gay? Was it...
Well, I feel like
drinking?
before that day at Thunder, like, I don't remember a lot of problems. I mean,
No.
there was maybe like basic relationship problems.
Sure.
Like, why you're still texting your ex or, that type of BS. But after that, I think I was apologetic about that day, but the next probably like 2 years was just absolute chaos of me trying to essentially like live a double life of having a pregnant wife, but also partying. Looking back, like, yeah, it was probably ridiculous that I was still trying to go out to bars and clubs, but that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I wasn't ready to be a dad. It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
So,
I think I remember one of the things that you said was like, I didn't choose this.
yeah, and I mean, that's...
I was like, well, neither did I,
Right.
but also neither did this baby.
Child. Yeah.
But I was not mature enough
Yeah.
to be like, okay, what you need to do is like stop drinking and, focus on your
life
family.
together.
Like that wasn't like having a family at that point was like, I didn't even plan to have kids till I was like 40 and I was 28. So it just was like, this is something I have to deal with, but not like it didn't even seem real. And then even after we had the baby, like it was very difficult for me, especially with her, like bartending was her only source of income. And so I'd be home like late at nights with a baby and it was very stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. So like during that, how was it so chaotic?
Well, I mean, there's incidents of, I don't know, like one time I went to Sully's and she was,
He went to a bar.
next door and she came over and saw me there and like dumped a drink on my head.
No. Wait. No. He would lie to me about where he was, or that he would like do this, like, I'm just sitting at home while you're bartending and I don't get to hang out with my friends. And this particular night, one of his friends comes into my bar and is like, man, just let Jason come out with us. Come on, like, let Jason go out. I was like, he's fine at home. It's fine. And then one of my friends came over and they were like, oh my God, I just saw Jason over across the street at another bar. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like the friend who just came and was like begging for him to come and like he's been out this whole time. And Jason's like texting me like, it's so bad here at home by myself. And I walk across the street. So I had somebody cover my bar. I walk across the street and he's over there. So I'd take a beer and I'd dump it on his head from behind.
I mean, it did suck being home by yourself when your wife is bartending and all your friends are out and it's like, well, I have to sit home alone. So should I have? Yeah, but
It's all about perspective though. But
right.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? And
there was a lot of situations where he like wouldn't come home and I would like, do you remember the time I put one of your Xbox controllers in like water?
Yeah, one time, I think she drove back from Lexington one time because I'd passed out and she thought I wasn't there. And then she was so pissed when I got there that she like dumped water all over me and like flooded the whole bed with water. And it was just chaos.
Oh my!
Like I was pregnant this whole time, and I'm not like that's not an excuse, but it was very like I couldn't contain my emotions.
Well, that and it's two people who had a lot of healing to do. I didn't even know.
It's still hard for me to like deal with her emotions, and so like you can imagine, like this is my first experience with a pregnant woman, and like any pregnant woman when they're hormonal is like harder. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Takes a lot of patience.
You guys are very opposite, right?
Right.
Like she has a really, really big feelings, and you aren't very emotional.
Right.
So it's like the fact that you guys have even honestly have come together after all the fucking shit that you guys have.
It was just bad. I mean, it makes you wonder, like,
through.
how would it have been different if she hadn't have gotten pregnant? Like, I don't know. Would we still be together, or maybe we would have had more time to grow?
But I think it's all meant to happen how
it happened. How it happened.
Yeah,
right?
it's supposed to happen. Like it's supposed to happen this way. And I think you guys have done a lot of learning and growing together because of all of the terrible things that have happened throughout your relationship.
Right.
I don't know if I can go here, but I'm going to go here. I don't know when this occurred because I don't really know the timeline because Lee and I didn't know each other. But there were instances where you would get drunk and not realize what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that you would do would be to talk to other women, hit on other women.
Right.
When did that start?
Well, it started when I started drinking. It never stopped until recently. But
can I say like something to that?
Yeah, go ahead and then I'll finish.
I think I used to drink with him, and when I drink, I black out. So there was a lot of times I didn't really know what was going on after I was past a certain point of drinking. And I stopped drinking right before we had our last baby. And so I started to notice more when I was sober and he was drunk of what was happening around me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, first of all, the reason I end up going to AA is like when I start to drink, I don't like to stop.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people are like, "You're not an alcoholic."
Yeah.
Because I have a functional life and I don't drink every day. I'm not hiding drinks around the house. I'm not like drinking in secret.
Well, and people have this like very specific image of what an alcoholic looks like. It's like how you thought about your dad.
Right.
Or how I thought of my
Exactly.
dad.
Exactly.
It's like he lost his family. He's like, he looks like shit. Like he drinks every day. He can't function.
Right.
Where it's a spectrum.
Right. So, but for me, once I start, it's not that I can't stop. I mean, sometimes I can't stop, but I just don't want to stop. And so I've had a couple of drinks. It doesn't take many drinks before my mind starts going to like what bar is open later. Are we going to the strip club? Like who's got drugs? Like
Damn.
I don't like to just, even if I could now go back to drinking, like I never enjoyed like having a couple of drinks. Like what's the point? I want to go all out. And when you drink that much, yeah, you're going to black out. And something about it too, it's not just me, it's a lot of alcoholics. Like the deviance and like the bad behavior part of it is like exciting and appealing.
Like getting caught with something or
Not even getting caught. It's just getting that out of control. Like Leah hated drinking because she doesn't want to lose control. And I loved drinking because you do lose control.
We've talked about that
Like
before.
I like being out of control. There's no amount of, like I could never have enough alcohol where I'm like, I'm acting a little too crazy. It's just like, it's fun. The thing with talking to women or flirting with women, I probably didn't realize a lot of this until I started doing like the 12 steps, but a lot of it is just like needing to feed your ego.
Yeah.
Right. And not having self-confidence.
Sure.
And, anyone likes to be complimented, right? Or you get attention from women that
Right.
makes you feel good.
Right.
And so I think that's what a lot of that was. It's not like I was out trying to cheat, but if we go out and women pay attention to me, like it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Right? I don't feel old. I feel like, you've still got it or whatever you want to call it. But, and that's what a lot of that drinking is, going to bars, buying shots for people is like, you want the validation.
Yeah.
Right? It's an ego trip.
Well, that's why a lot of people go out to the bar anyways, is because they're
Right.
wanting to meet people
Correct.
and flirt and
Correct. But
hook up.
I don't think they realize all they're doing is feeding their ego. Like,
Yeah.
you think of it as fun
Sure.
and harmless, but really, if your driver in life is feeding your ego, it's not something you're ever going to get enough of.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, it's weird. I didn't really think of it as bad, like talking to other women, because frankly, like I didn't care if like she was flirting with some other guy. I wasn't worried we're going to go home with the person. And, I had that party mentality and I like to feed my ego. So that pretty much never stopped. Certainly since COVID or even before that, like me going out in public to bars or parties or anything like that was like way, way down. But sure, for most of our relationship, yeah, I mean, I would drink to the point where I just didn't care like what I was saying or who I was talking to.
So then when those things would happen and you did know about it, Leah.
Oh.
How'd that go?
I'm already going to start crying.
I know.
My shirt. I wore this shirt on purpose.
That's all right.
Damn it, I should have brought the napkins. Or tissues.
I think over time I just kept it in. Because there was a lot of like justifying, and I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing. Everybody was doing it, everybody was drinking. And it's gaslighting. But I believed it. And so it would get to the point where I would stop bringing it up, or I would just be like, well, this is just what it's like now. Yeah, pass that over.
I'm coming.
Thanks. There's this thing that happened, and we don't have to get into this, but like one of the things that we realized in the past couple of years is like extremely toxic and abusive is the silent treatment. And that's what I would get if I brought these things up. and I would get the silent treatment. And coming from someone who has like major abandonment issues, it hurt more to get that than the actual thing he did. So there were a lot of times where I would apologize for getting mad just to break that silence.
Now, in those moments, Jason, when she would just apologize first, would you just be like, yeah, you should?
Yeah, as dumb as it sounds, like I don't think I realized how I was hurting her.
Yeah.
Like I just thought she was being insecure or just being a bitch. Like,
wow.
Like I work hard all week. Like, can I go out one night a week and have fun? Like that's a mentality a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's like we've been married, 10, 15 years. Like, what do you... You're still worried? Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, what is the big deal?
Let me ask you, have you ever did you ever grow up with two healthy adults who had like a loving, healthy relationship?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't either, but.
Same.
My mom and my stepdad have been together since I was little, since my parents got divorced. And I would see other children's parents, like, I was in other kids' houses all the time.
There are couples who are together.
Right.
And then there are, not saying anything about that, but there are a lot of people that I know who are together. And then there are very few where I'm like, oh, that's like a good example.
Yeah. It's few and far between, to be honest, from what I've seen in my life. Like, you don't see that a lot.
Same. Yeah.
Right. So it's not unusual. It's worse for some people. Like the level of chaos or dysfunction can certainly be worse. So, we argue about that. Like, I don't think my life was excessively dysfunctional. Some people in my family disagree with that. But, I don't know that myself or many people I knew had like a great example of like what loving parents or a relationship is supposed to look like. No.
Well, we were raised by a bunch of boomers. No offense.
Right. Right. They
just didn't have the information that we have now.
Honestly, how they were raised a lot of times is worse than how they raised us. So,
sure.
Right.
Yeah. We just keep learning more and trying to get better. How long did that go on for where you guys had that kind of unhealthy dynamic where...
Forever?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. Until I quit drinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and that started... we have talked about this. Like my first mushroom journey was June of 2020. And in that journey, I learned to let go of a lot of things, but also like how to stand up for myself and how to speak out.
He probably wasn't used to that.
Oh yeah, that was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That was really hard because it was another year before he got sober. So it was a lot of me not being silent anymore and not just giving in and not just accepting the behaviors anymore. Mm-hmm. That was really difficult for you. I know that because you were not used to me being that way at all.
Did that make you angry?
It did originally. She started getting into all this mental health stuff, and I just found it very annoying.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he wasn't into it.
I can't really explain why. I don't know. I think I felt like she's like trying to diagnose me, and I'm like, you're not a professional. Like, you can't diagnose this situation. Like, you're not a psychologist.
Yeah.
Well, the amount of times I would say, like, I think you're an alcoholic, and you would get so angry. Yeah.
It's weird now. Doesn't bother me, but it did then. Until I until I saw her like have a mental breakdown. I don't know, have you told the story about how like when you were gone and I was here, like had people over?
No.
That's pretty much the last time before I quit drinking, right?
Yeah.
So she was, I don't know, where were you at?
Nashville.
She was in Nashville.
I think I know this story.
Yeah, I didn't know, but apparently she had an iPad where I was logged into, and so she could read all my messages. So she's gone. I had some friends over, all guys. We're hanging out, drinking, playing darts. I think at the time I like texted the drug dealer. I'm like, hey, what do you got? And so, she's
looking,
and she can see all this. And so she's kind of like poking, calling me messages like, who's there? What are you doing? I'm like, we're just hanging out, chill out. And like, there's people she doesn't like. A couple of those guys were there. And so I'm lying about that. She obviously knows they're there while she's talking to, right.
Yeah.
But I was also kind of like, I thought maybe she knew somehow. So I was like extra lying to like see if I could like get her to break.
Oh my God.
Does that make sense?
I mean, I think we have different brains, but yeah, sure. I'll go with it.
Well, it's like why do you keep asking me who's here?
Because she's on your shit. Women
I know, but I'm like, I just told you
Jason.
who's here. But it wasn't intuition. Like, she literally could see messages or cameras or whatever.
Like, he was like, are you spying on me through our
right, I'm
cameras?
like, are you watching the Ring doorbell? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, but is it spying when it's your own home?
I don't know. It obviously makes you feel not trusted.
Yeah.
He was triggered.
Which I had a reason not to be trusted because I was lying. But I'm just saying I didn't like not being trusted. But,
I didn't like that she wasn't believing my lies.
right. It was pissing me off. So
we're honest.
She comes back and she basically has like a mental breakdown, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time out of our whole relationship I started to realize that I was like hurting her.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to try and quit. And I knew I was serious about it because I was like, I'll go. I called my buddy who's in AA and I was like, I'll go to AA. Which I would not do that if I wasn't serious about it. I mean, there are people that go to AA and they're not serious. They just do it to, like, they would be like, I'll go to AA, but really they're going to keep drinking, right? But I was like, no, I can kind of see what's going on. And ironically, like, I felt justified to lie because, again, I was like, well, I don't want to lie, but I worked hard all week. You're out of town having fun. Like, why can't I have my buddies over and just cut loose for a couple hours? Like, I'm at my own house. I'm not allowed to have friends over and have some drinks. Like, who's it hurting?
Obviously her.
Obviously. And my kids, too. My kids were here. Sure. We're doing blow.
Oh, God.
We're drinking.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it seems crazy, a little bit crazy in retrospect. I mean, I see how people have the perspective of, like, I'm not hurting anything. But
right. And it's interesting to hear, like, kind of your thoughts during it and how much, I'm just going to be transparent, how much you kind of lacked empathy.
Right.
And lacked like, who am I hurting? I mean, you are hurting people.
Right. I know that now.
Yeah. Right. But it's just, it's wild to hear the thought process of an addict.
Right.
Because in those moments, like,
right,
they're only kind of concerned with themselves.
Right. Yeah, you're only concerned with yourself.
Right.
Like, at all times.
Which why every addict is also a narcissist.
Right.
Which is wild.
Yeah, while you're addicted. Yeah. I mean, again, I get it now, but It was like, well, I don't want to lie. Like, I'd rather just tell you who's over here and what we're doing.
Yeah.
But you won't let me. So I have to lie.
Yeah. Right. Which even like hearing you say those things out loud, like, I'm glad you're being transparent. But for me, I'm like, ooh, that like makes me feel a certain way for you and for your kids. And I'm sure it's going to make our listeners feel a certain way. But I'm like, I appreciate that. But you
get what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm sure that's a common mentality amongst people who are, and that's why people start to lie. Like, I'm in recovery with people who like are the classic image of alcoholism, like hiding bottles, and your wife is like, "Are you drinking?" And like, no, and you go out to your car and you got a pint of vodka hidden in there, right? Like, there's a spectrum of like how severe it can be, but essentially, like, if you're using, like, you got to do what you got to do to get away with it, right? And if it's white lies, like, who's it really hurting?
Well, and there was a point where I had already been for a year trying really hard to like better myself and better my life, and he was just kind of doing the opposite. Mm-hmm. But I remember saying things like, you could be a better dad, and what you heard was, I'm a bad dad.
Right. Yeah.
It was very triggering.
I mean, ironically, like, I was annoyed she was bettering herself. Like, I didn't want her to quit drinking.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want her to quit drinking?
Well, because if she quits drinking and she works on herself, like,
right. But actually, I did enjoy hanging out with her and like us having fun drinking.
yeah.
Right. So there was that aspect of it. And then, yeah, when she quit drinking and I didn't, it just made things even harder because anything we would do, like I'm now being watched like a hawk, even if it's like fairly mild behavior compared to what I used to do. But, you know, at the time, like I'm kind of surprised we survived that because I didn't want to quit and she did. And I'm sure she would have been valid to leave me, but I don't know if I would have cared because I was like, I'd rather find someone else who drinks anyway, because now it's just a problem.
Wow. Okay. So I guess at what point?
I don't know if it seems like maybe you don't understand like the compulsion of addiction, of like how strong it is.
No, because I'm not an addict.
Yeah, like that's
I don't.
Right.
But when it is,
it's just funny to me that you're shocked that I would think like maybe I would rather be with somebody who would drink. But I think that's probably very common among people whose life is like dominated by alcohol or any other drug, right?
But Lee and I have known each other for like a decade.
Right.
But it was just like me getting my eyebrows waxed or eyelash extensions or whatever.
Right.
And we would talk a little bit about you in that situation, but I didn't know you. And I know you better now. But I know you better now. I've only known sober Jason.
Right.
Like, it's I know these stories, but still hearing it from you when you're not an addict, you're still like, whew.
Right. And the thing is, like, people may be listening to this and they're like, I don't know, like their image of addiction, like they're addicts too, but they think they're not. Like you think of addiction as like people who have to go to rehab to get clean. And it's not that. I mean, if you can't envision what your life would look like without drinking and you think it would be miserable, like you probably have a problem.
Oh, I have so many people that I know who abuse alcohol and they don't even think that they have a problem.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's terrifying. Like when that's the only thing you enjoy in life. Like it is terrifying to think, well, what the hell will I do without this?
Yeah.
Like it legitimately is. Yeah. So yeah, it sounds ridiculous that I could sit here and be like, well, I'd be glad if she left me because then I can find someone else who drinks. But like you don't know how you can have a life without the alcohol.
So then let me ask you this. So then why didn't you go find somebody who likes to drink too while she was changing and growing?
You know, I had friends who I could drink with, right? We have a family. I didn't love her, right? There's a lot at stake. So, I wasn't drinking super frequently toward the end, but it would be like, I don't know, once every month or couple months would be some blow up, right? So it would be a blow up and then it would die down. Like it wasn't constant misery. But I mean, it got so bad at the end that I was like, this is not sustainable, obviously. But, I probably did. I mean, we both considered leaving each other at times.
That was going to be my next question.
Right.
For you, Leah. Yeah. Was while you were growing and healing and he was resistant and almost angry that you were doing this, were there like, okay, I'm going to divorce him and I'm done?
I think that's why he got sober. Because I think right before, like the first time he went to a meeting was the exact same day. Like I had come back home from like a trip to visit my family in Florida. And while I was in Florida, I was like, I'm leaving. I can't keep doing this. And when I came home, I think he had like heard that from me before. Like, if you don't stop, I'm going to leave. But like, it wasn't that this time. It was like, oh, she's done.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a matter of if. It was, I can't keep doing this because you're holding me back and you're making me feel really bad for doing good. And it's kind of like what you and I have said this before, like when you start to grow and when you start to like do all these things, you can only do so much with that when you're put right back into the same dirty water.
Yeah.
Like the water was polluted. There wasn't much, I didn't have support, emotional support. I didn't have support in my growth and my healing. And I knew that if I didn't leave, then I wasn't going to be able to continue my journey.
Yeah.
And I think you knew that. I think you knew that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, at that point, I knew if I didn't quit, like, we're going to be divorced. I mean, as shitty as it sounds, I probably was still a little bit like, well, let me weigh the pros and cons. Like, you know, if I'm divorced, like, I'll have less money, but I can still drink. And, like, you know, like, that's the mentality. So.
It's just, like, it's crazy to, like, hear you talk like that.
And
I'm just being honest.
I know, I'm like quote unquote like a normal drinker. So like imagine people who are like heroin addicts or opioid addicts, like in literally or physically addicted to the chemical. Like, you know, this is like a normal, like quote unquote high level, high functioning alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
And it's still, you know, I had to weigh like, what do I want? My family or yeah, I'm going to lose a lot, but at least, you know, I can still drink.
So would you, because it doesn't really sound like it, I was going to say, would you consider that your rock bottom?
My rock bottom. Yeah, that's it's funny you asked that. My sponsor told me at one point, I'm like, you know, I think I told him, I was like, I feel like I haven't hit rock bottom. He's like, well, that rock bottom is relative, right? Like, your rock bottom can be what's happening right now. It doesn't have to be like you're quadriplegic from a car wreck.
Right.
So don't be stupid, right? Like, so that probably, you know, as far as my actions or certain other things that have happened, like, yeah, maybe they were worse, but that was enough of a rock bottom for me. Like watching her on the ground and being like, yeah, I'm going to get divorced. I was like, I don't know, it was a bit of an epiphany, I guess.
Yeah.
The wild thing for me was like the amount of times that I had cried before, but like for some reason, these mental breakdowns that I was having, and there were a few of them.
Or bad.
They were so bad that's finally what clicked for him.
It was even hard. It was hard too, because even when, I mean, eventually at that one incident, I did find out like I'd been logged into her iPad, which that pissed me off as well. Because, I mean, honestly, like, who wants because you would see every message I was writing to anybody all day, every day.
And that had to have
and me and my friends, like, at the time, like, we would have, like, text message threads, like, talking shit all day. And, like, just we say stuff that she doesn't like. And, you know, she would have to keep her mouth shut or I would know. You know, it's just, I don't know, like, even though I was in the wrong, I realized that, but it still angered me. And I had to get past that and be like, okay, I did something wrong. Like, I don't like that she could see my messages, but fundamentally, like, I was the one wrong here.
Right. She doesn't trust you.
Right.
She doesn't trust you for valid reasons. So that's why she's going to all these things to try to figure out what the hell you're doing.
Right. I can't stress enough, like, it didn't seem like valid reasons to me at the time.
Yeah. So when she had like that mental breakdown where you were like, oh shit, like this is bad. Mm-hmm. Then did you go to AA?
Yeah, pretty much like the next week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I think a lot of people, they think that like, okay, I'm in AA. I'm good.
Right.
I quit drinking.
I'm
right.
good. It's all good.
Right.
But a lot of times, like, we all have our things and our unhealthy, toxic things that we go to. You know, Leah's was shopping. Mine was, I don't know, beating people up.
Boxing.
I don't know. I was very angry. So it's, you used alcohol and drugs to escape, but now you don't have that escape anymore.
Right.
So I don't think that people sometimes often realize that there is a reason why you may have done all of this stuff, and now that you don't have it, there's probably a lot of feelings and shit you got to sit with. So how was that like getting sober?
Well, I don't know. I mean, even when I got sober again, it was still chaos.
I'm sure.
For like a year. The first 6 months were horrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know that I did know how to deal with it.
Did you have that kind of mentality though? Like, I stopped drinking, so it should be fine.
Well, I did expect it would help. And I did have a lot of frustration that it wasn't helping as much as I thought it should be helping. Because there would be times we would fight as bad as when I was drinking.
Or worse.
Or worse when I wasn't drinking. You know, as far as me being able to unpack everything else and not having that to numb myself, I mean, it was, you know, we were seeing a psychiatrist for a year. You know, I still smoked cigarettes, so if I was having too much anxiety, you know, I could go to nicotine. It was just a lot of work, you know, a couple of mushroom trips, obviously, but it wasn't like one thing. It was, and even then I wanted to give up at times. Like I remember being in psychiatry and I'm like, I can't do this. Like this is too much.
Well, think about all the
and I think,
shit
you know,
you
one
guys
of
went through.
my buddy and my sponsors, like, he's a very good divorce lawyer, and almost anecdotally, like the percentage of people that sober up, like the divorce rate is still sky high because you can't recover from that. Like there's too much damage done. There's a lot of reasons. A lot of times, like even the person who the spouse may still be drinking, or even if they weren't drinking, you start to realize like, well, they were a little bit crazy too, and a lot of the excuses got put on the alcoholism when really it was like there's a lot of other stuff under there. So, you know, most not drinking can help. I mean,
but that's like the easiest part, I think.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if I would have kept drinking, like there's no way we would still be together, I don't think. But there was still a lot to do after that. And it's still like, it's not like we're done. I mean, it's still difficult at times.
Yeah. The first year, and they talk about this in AA, like you're not supposed to date anybody if you're single.
Right.
Like, and they talk about how it can be really, really hard on marriages and relationships in that first year. And I think, honestly, like, you know, at one point you said, like, I did too much damage. I burned the house down. We can't recover from, like, all the shit that I did, because he was starting to realize, like, oh, shit. Like, I played a role in all of this. I think that was really hard for him. But because I think I had already started my journey, I saw it very different. And I was very, like, I don't know. I saw it very differently. I was like, you did burn the house down, but that house fucking sucked.
Yeah, let's build a new one.
Let's build a new one and learn how, like, what we need from the beginning. And, you know, I understand this is hard, and I did a lot of work myself to try to, like, let go of some of the things. So I know we've openly talked about some stuff that's happened, and people are like, how did you stay? And I'm like, because he started changing.
Yeah.
Like, that's how. Had he not changed, or had he not, like, acknowledged those things, there's no way I could have stayed.
Yeah.
There's no way. So I think that it helps that I had already been where I was that first year.
But you probably had to learn to let a lot of stuff go. Because it's hard to, you know, years and years and years of that kind of a dynamic between the two of you.
But I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as much as I can say, like, I've let things go, like, the body still remembers, your mind still remembers. I still get triggered. I still get triggered. He knows this. Like, and I just ask for, like, the same patience in return, because I know that they'll get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just going to take a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first year, like, everybody thinks that, like, you stop drinking and everything gets easier. And that's kind of when things got really, really hard, because then we had to actually work on the things that were, like, fundamentally wrong with our relationship and with our dynamic.
Yeah.
There was no more escaping it.
Yeah. So what helped you guys through that time period to get through it?
Mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. It was a lot. So, you know, the psychiatry helped.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I don't know how many like big trips I've done. Like, is it 3 or 4?
I think you're 3.
I think it's 4.
Oh.
The one before I quit drinking.
Yeah.
And then...
Is that when, like, nothing really... You felt like it didn't do anything?
Well, no, I felt... The weird thing about that one was, like, when I did the first one, I remember I felt... It kind of gave me a new outlook on life. Like, I remember driving around one day, and I kind of felt... I don't know, I felt like a kid again. Like, I didn't feel like I had all the stress. But I ruined that because I just went right back to drinking and doing blow. And then there was 2 after that, which
one of them was like you got stuck on a step.
Yeah, I mean so if there was 3 after that, the first 2 were kind of similar. Like they're very chaotic. Like mine, I think it was just because my mentality in my life was still chaotic.
Yeah.
Like a little bit scary, but like kind of helped me figure some things out. But I wouldn't say like super revolutionary. It's just kind of like another tool in the process. The most recent one I did was more of like a completely like spiritual out of body experience. But I think the trips combined with the psychiatry, combined with everything else as Leah's does with her reading, combined with me being sober. It's just been all of that. I mean, it's difficult when you quit drinking, especially if you have a high level of stress and like no way to mediate that, because I don't take any, pharmaceuticals or stress relievers. Like I said, I had smoking up till recently. I've been trying to quit that too. But like, I think when you're sober, when you first get sober, like there's only a certain amount of stress you can tolerate before you get forced back into drinking. And I've tiptoed that line, several times since I've been sober, but if she didn't do all of this, she would have left or I would have left, because one of us would have been like, this is too much, we got to start over, right?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. So you're sober. How have people in your life, like the people that you partied with,
yeah,
how did they respond to you getting sober? Were people in your life supportive, or did you have people who weren't supportive or didn't get it? Because did people think like, dude, you don't have a problem, you're not an alcoholic?
Yeah, most people still think that. And no, most people are not very supportive. It doesn't bother me. It bothers Leah more than myself.
I think it bothers me out of like in a protective way.
I think it doesn't bother me because I know if it wasn't me and I had someone else who got sober, I'd be like, all right, good job. Like, but I'm going to the bar. But I don't know. A lot of people are very supportive. Obviously, the guys in my AA group are supportive. My sponsor, who used to be a guy I partied with, by the way, back in college. We've known each other for like, I don't know, 20, 25 years.
That's awesome. He's your sponsor.
Yeah, he sobered up before me. He has some funny stories about how he got sober too, which I won't put on here. But yeah, everybody has their own stories. But
sure,
he was instrumental in that. I will say, like after I made the Facebook post, I kind of put it all out there, which was like 18 months into my sobriety. Like a lot of people commented and reached out after that, like reached out privately. I've had some people reaching out recently about like asking questions about AA and stuff like that. People
that's awesome.
Still do drink. But no, it doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't really surprise me that people weren't supportive, because they didn't think I had a problem in the first place.
Yeah.
And then to some extent, like admitting that I did, they have a problem too. And then some people like didn't want to lose me as a drinking buddy. So there's lots of reasons. None of it surprises or bothers me really.
Well, it's not personal.
I'm just trying to lead by example. Like if you want to sober up because you see yourself in me, then like that's great. But if not, like I don't care. It doesn't affect me, right? So.
Damn, I wish I could be more like you, and sometimes in that like thinking.
I've said that before because he's very good at like.
I know, just separating
things.
We don't know how to do that.
A lot of people don't. I mean, I understand that. That's just me. But if probably the first 6 months, like I didn't want to so much be around people drinking, but now it's fun. Like we go to a concert or a festival, like it doesn't really bother me at all. I don't feel compelled to like want a beer. If anything, like I'm like, well, you're not really having any more fun by getting loaded. I don't understand it. Like we went to see a concert a few weeks ago, and like some of the guys I'm with, they're drinking on the way up, drinking on the way back. By the time we get done, they're passed out. Like, you feel like shit in the morning. You spent extra money. Like you didn't have any more fun than that. But that's just, I get it. Like that's all they know.
Right.
Like if I wouldn't have gone to AA, it would have been me too. But I did find myself a lot towards the end being like, why am I drinking tonight? Like that never happened. The first 10 years, but towards the end, there was a lot more moments of like, why am I doing this? Or like, why am I still drinking tonight? Like a little bit of self-awareness about it.
Yeah.
That I didn't have for most of the time I drank. But yeah, you can talk if you want. It seems to bother her that people aren't more supportive, but I never really think about it, to be honest.
No, I've said it. Like it bothers me. Like I think because the relationships that I've had, people care about my growth. Although I will say, I'm going to backtrack. That first 6 months of him being sober, I did kind of lose some friends because they didn't understand why I wasn't going out anymore. And I was we kind of isolated ourselves for a little while. And I remember going to a concert and wanting to come home immediately after, because I knew that it was bothering you that I was out at a concert when you weren't able to go out to the concert. And they were like, well, who cares? Look at all the times he did that to you. Like, why don't you just stay out? And like, they just didn't understand, like, because I want to go home and be in support of him. Like, I'm not trying to get him back for all those times.
Yeah. Because it's like, if you guys keep going tit for tat with each other because he did this to me, so I'm going to do it back to him. Like,
right.
What's the point?
There was like a disconnect that kind of happened with some of my friends that I had at the time, and the friends who are supportive are still around. So yeah, there's part of me that's like, God, like my friends would be like, how have you been? How's it been for you? Like, what does that feel like? But I also recognize that like, I'm very different than you in my relationships and in my friendships. And I am very emotional and I like to go deep really fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Those friendships, they're partying. Like,
and I do have some of those friends that are just they're friends.
Yeah. Did COVID help you guys? Because people had to stay home, or did it not?
No, it didn't help me.
Oh, okay.
I think that COVID was the catalyst to all of this.
Oh.
I really think
I mean,
so.
it might have helped in some ways, but that's during COVID. I remember like I would find myself like drinking on a Tuesday night. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't do this.
Well, when COVID first started, it was like alcohol sales went up through the roof, that. It was like a running joke where it's like, okay, we're not working, we're all staying at home, everyone's getting fucking drunk every night, and it was.
Yeah, we didn't get drunk every night. Like I would drink with my buddy on Fridays, like we would drink in the garage. But I don't know, it just started to. I think it got depressing, and that's when I started to realize I was like self-medicating a little bit more than just like having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, how have you guys come together, and what are the things that you guys have done to keep your marriage and your family intact and get to the place where you are now?
I mean, we're still learning.
Sure. We always are. But you guys are in a much, much better place.
I think he's a completely different person.
For a reason.
Right.
Which is why I think that I can talk about this and not feel like I'm a victim anymore.
Yeah, and I think I'm getting, like, I'm more patient now. Like, I'm not always perfect. Like, sometimes if she's too emotional, like, I have trouble dealing with it. But In general, like I think we resolve situations quicker. We're able to talk about stuff that, I mean, there's still stuff that's triggering. Like there's family stuff that's that can be bad and trigger both of us. But
Sure.
Most situations, and obviously there's no fights about drinking anymore. So there's most stuff is just either not an issue anymore, or it's like much calmer to deal with.
Well, and one of the things I think we've talked about in psychiatry and together is that like the fights that we've had in the last since he got sober seem so much worse. Like you've said that.
Some are, yeah.
Like they seem worse than they were before, and I have said, but I think it's because we didn't have these difficult conversations before. Yeah. Like we're having to like really get to the root of where things are. And that's like, it sounds weird, but like, as the things as simple as like you go into the grocery store without me and right. not understanding why that's a trigger for me. and me realizing like, oh shit, that's because that's like touching this abandonment wound. And normally I don't give a shit, but if I'm feeling like we're not connected and he goes without me, I feel like he's leaving me. Like that sounds so weird to people, but I think he understands it. I understand it. It's still something that happens and we work through, but like it's just really kind of getting to the root of some of these triggers and the issues that we have and working through them together and communicating like this is why it makes me feel this way. So yeah, sometimes I do think the conversations are a little bit harder to get through and they feel really intense.
Yeah.
But I think we've done more work in the last, how long has it been since you got sober? 20 months? Mm-hmm. 20 months than we ever have in the entire history of our relationship.
Yeah. And I think you have to learn how to fight, if that makes any sense. Like there are always going to be disagreements or things that you have to address, but you have to like learn how to fight with each other and discuss it to like move on. Where I think a typical response is we don't want to go there with our partner because it's hard and it's heavy and whatever. It's like, but you kind of need to talk about it.
Well, and I think another thing that has kind of helped us, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like understanding how the other person works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly not something we understood for most of our relationship.
Yeah.
And then I used to, all I know is my own experience. And so right. I would think like, well, she's the problem. Not realizing that like other people are having a different experience than me. So maybe I'm contributing to part of the problem actually. Right.
Yeah.
But some people probably never realize that.
No.
So.
No. And like, I'm glad that I've gotten to know you better now because I think if I would have been, hung out with Leah on that level back when you were using.
Oh, she would have hated you.
I don't know. Maybe not.
No, I would have hated you.
You say that, but there was never like a shortage of people calling me to want to hang out or party. Like
no. What I'm saying, my friends hated you.
Oh, because of how I treated her.
That's what we're saying.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes. Yeah.
No, definitely.
I mean, I'm sure you were fun, but I'm going somewhere with
I think
this.
to get a fair assessment, you'd have to go back to when she was drinking too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think about like the friends who did know what was going on, and they are very protective of me,
right,
in those situations.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I would have shanked you probably.
That's cool.
But thanks, I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
But like getting to know you now, I'm here all the fucking time.
Right.
I like live in your all's basement.
Right.
And I see so many interactions between the two of you, and I see how patient you are with her.
Right.
And just day to day, everyday shit. Because, listen, I love you dearly, but you're a little perfectionist, OCD, have some tendencies. And when you're in those moments, he's so incredibly patient with you. And I think that you guys now.
This is recording, right?
Yes. I made sure to say that, by the way, too. But
I feel like I've said that to him. It's been difficult to say sometimes, but like
I see it.
I feel like just learning about each other, like he is really patient with me, and he is good with me.
I mean, we're down here and getting the cameras, and you're like, I think it's crooked, and these chords, there's too many chords, and blah blah blah. And he's just down here to help, and I love that. And
you have to. She is very OCD.
Oh my God!
If I'm being honest, like it's annoying for me, but like every person that is with someone, like there's going to be something
things
about you, right? That's going to annoy you. Like you have to learn how to kind of live with it and be okay with it.
Well, and we learn through dualities, because if she was just like you, I mean, no offense, but y'all wouldn't fucking talk probably.
No, we wouldn't. Or if I was just like her, they would be crying all day, every day. So like we're definitely symbiotic in a lot of ways, but there are other ways that makes it a challenge.
Right. And I think a lot of people think that they wish that their partner was more like them, but I think that's where we learn is through the differences.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, one of the ways we work well is if she's having a bad day and she wants to come home and like dump it all on me, I can listen. It doesn't bother me.
That's another thing I do notice about him. We'll have like a cool moment or need to vent about something. We'll go up and be like, Jason, guess what? And he's
like, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right. So sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad. Like sometimes she wants more emotion sometimes, but you just got to learn to make it work.
Yeah. No, I like seeing your guys' dynamic now. So I'm glad you guys are here.
Cool.
And in this place.
Glad you're glad.
Man of many words. Cool. All right. Well, is there anything that you guys want to add?
Oh, what do you want to add?
What's your favorite thing about me?
I like
hell
that.
No, we're not going there.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that.
Okay. I could think of 10 things right now.
Okay. Let me ask this then. Like, is there anything I can do to better support you?
Ooh, that's good.
With what, sobriety?
I think so, yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, you're good about supporting me. We have there's some ancillary stuff in our relationship which you probably mentioned, like with my parents. Talked about that much.
Not even gone there.
Any of that.
So maybe that will come up, but it has nothing to do with my drinking, but it's a challenging family situation that we deal with. And that is probably like our main challenge right now. And
which is wild because it was never a challenge before you got sober.
Right. But again, for me, is like one of the important thing about being sober is like you have to, I tell her this, like you have to have a peaceful existence and like as little stress as possible. I mean, stress is going to happen.
Sure.
Right. But certainly you don't want like your relationship to be a primary cause of it. But, she's been very patient with my struggles, or like if I get too negative, and like, I mean, there's been times I feel like I can't do this. And she's like, you can do it. I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I'm done with this. So she's very positive
she's
about
like your
support.
little cheerleader.
Yeah, basically. Right. And not giving up. Jason. Like I've wanted to give up, and she could have given up too, but she hasn't. So, it's very, I mean, it's helpful for me, or, I probably would have given up, honestly, because it is that hard.
Something that I don't think Leah gets enough credit for is that woman loves you and has fought for you, even when maybe other people didn't think that she should fight for you.
Right. Or didn't realize she was fighting for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Because I think a lot of this was done in private.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even my friends who hated you didn't really know the
whole
truth.
Yeah, and I've had friends that didn't like her as well. Probably not for valid reasons, but ultimately, whatever they think doesn't really matter.
That's good too.
Right.
That's where that mentality comes into play.
I know. That's where
really
I'm
good.
like, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I could be more like you, but no, I don't. I need to be like me.
Yeah, you need to be like you. Just a little more chill.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Try not.
But I'm probably not. But I'm trying. I'm trying.
Well, so she just asked you that. What about switch it? I don't even remember what the question was.
I was like, how have you helped me?
Or how can you be more supportive?
Yeah.
How could I be more supportive?
No, that's what I asked you. So
Right,
I guess
so,
for you,
yeah.
you would be asking me how.
How could I be more supportive of you?
Yeah.
So what's the answer?
Well, you're doing it.
Right.
He just did it the other day.
You just did it the other day.
We were talking about it.
Yeah. The emotional support was like, I think what I needed the most from you. And I think, this is going to come out. I did like this.
I do not mean to laugh when you cry.
No, I know. But I have listeners who laugh when I cry.
And can I say this? I always know when you're going to cry because you're like, and then you swallow. Okay, go ahead.
I did this Akashic reading and asked like why you were in my life. And I know like before he would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? But now he just kind of goes with it.
Yeah, that's great.
Like he very much like, he's just like, yeah, she's a little weird. It works. Like, I'm weird.
Yeah, I don't call it weird, but I was like a staunch atheist for most of my life. So
Tony was agnostic.
yeah, some of her spirituality, I think if you would have started doing that, like when I was still drinking like 5 years ago, I'd been like, what the hell is this? But, I'm not like religious or anything right now. I'd say I'm definitely more spiritual than I was. But even at times I've wanted to give up. Like, I'm not like a religious reader of the big book or anything like that. Like some of the guys or some people in the program, but if I'll go back to it and it's like a reminder of like, what am I trying to do here? Like, I want to be a better person. Like, I want to continue to grow as a person, which is like what she stresses. But she gets frustrated about this, but sometimes it is hard hearing stuff from her. And maybe it shouldn't be, but I don't know. I just think sometimes if the person you're in the conflict with is trying to give you the advice, like it doesn't always hit home.
I get sometimes maybe needing an outside source to say the same thing.
Right. So, I appreciate you pushing me, but it's I don't know, it's easy to forget. Like if you stop going to meetings, like I don't go to meetings every week. Some people go multiple times a week. But the point being, if you don't keep the right mentality about it, whether that's going to meetings or reading a book or psychiatry or like having someone like her to push you, it's very easy to forget like why you're doing it or like what's the point, and you get in that mentality, like it's easy to give up.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the things that like this lady told me in this Akashic reading was that I was drawn to you because you gave me what I needed at the time, which was stability.
Mm-hmm.
And then my needs changed. So you were a big part of like what I needed for a very long time in my life that I didn't have before. See, this is what I was trying to say earlier. And then now my needs are, I need someone to like be emotionally supportive because I'm not going to, the emotional part of me is never going to change.
Right. Yeah, I get that. That's a difficult journey for me.
Sure. That takes some time. Yeah,
But
she's
you're
changing.
doing it.
And also, like, you didn't really have a voice before.
No.
You now have this voice, and you're not just with the relationship, but with what we're doing, and you speak very loudly, and I'm sure that's something to get used to and needing, some validation that what you are saying has merit to it sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So stoic.
I know. It's so funny. Did you know that I impersonate you?
Yeah, she told me.
I haven't seen it.
but I haven't seen it. She said I don't move my teeth, so I thought I was gonna start talking like this.
He said he doesn't really move his teeth a lot. He just talks like this. Let's see it.
No, I'm not ready. Maybe drugs. Maybe we can do drugs.
That's fine.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and then yeah.
Okay.
Because I think part of it is like you're so like cool. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna do it, and you're gonna be like, awesome.
I'll be like, oh my god, that's so spot on.
Leah's gonna be like.
It is how I am, but also, I read books on like Buddhism and like, the Marcus Aurelius Meditations book is Stoicism. So
you're very stoic,
right?
Yeah. So I'm like used to like kind of getting a reaction from people. So with Jason, I'm like,
I'm always trying to get a reaction. I don't know what he's
really thinking right now.
It's partially like it's not all unintentional. Like I'm intentionally try to be like that. It's just a lot of situations where like if you're a manager or managing people or dealing with children, or like it's good not to react to stuff, right? So that
I've never lived that life.
Yeah, nor has Leah, and I think my lack of reaction can be frustrating for her. But yeah, I guess I have to balance being emotionally supportive with not reacting.
I think you all it's a good balance.
Yeah.
So. Well, Jason, Jesus.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
And can you do us a favor and actually start listening to our fucking podcast so that you actually know?
He has never listened to an episode.
We talk about.
I listen to clips. Just keep posting. Do you need a clips channel? There's no way I'm going to catch up on 25, 30, 33 podcasts.
That's what I need from you.
He'll listen to this one.
Because it's him?
No, I will never listen to this one ever.
Why?
No. I don't like listening to myself, first of all. I just lived it. Why would I listen to it again?
He's not wrong.
I don't know.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, I told you pick a couple of your top ones out and I'll listen to them.
All right, help me do that. He said pick our faves and he'll listen.
Done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you take offense to it, but I even like
he hears it every day.
it's not like I'm spending hours listening to other podcasts. It's just I mostly listen to music or like clips. I do clips channel.
All right, we'll start working on some clips for you.
There you go.
You hear that, Leah?
Cioto's clips channel. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
All right.
And to our listeners,
I'll go back up to my hole.
Go back upstairs. Get out of here.